The girls. Mother arrives at school in her cleaning uniform, and when everyone laughs at her, her crying daughters ask the young billionaire, "Can you stand up for our mom?" What happens next is surprising. The clock struck 3:30 when Megan arrived at the gates of Willowbrook Academy. She was 15 minutes late, something that rarely happened. The bus she took every day had broken down halfway, forcing her to run 3 blocks under a grey autumn sky that threatened rain. Her light blue uniform with the Clean First cleaning company logo was still damp with sweat on her back. The smell of cleaning products permeated the fabric. She hadn't had time to stop by home to change as she usually did. Today, the twins would have to see their mother exactly as she was for most of the day, a cleaner. The private school's courtyard was full. Well-dressed parents in expensive coats waited for their children, chatting in small groups, sipping coffee from disposable cups and checking their phones. Megan took a deep breath before entering, adjusting her brown hair tied in a simple bun and trying to wipe a bleach stain from her sleeve. The twins studied there thanks to a scholarship Megan had secured after months of persistence and 3 interviews. Sophie and Chloe were too smart for the public school in the neighborhood where they lived, she told herself every morning as she took them. The sacrifice was worth it, even if it meant cleaning the homes of some of her daughters, classmates, parents. As she walked through the gate, the usual buzz of conversation quieted for a moment. Then it grew louder. "I look at her clothes," whispered a girl with a pink bow in her hair to her friend. An older boy pointed discreetly. "My mum says she cleans the Peterson family's house." "Must be someone's maid," a father commented, far too loudly. Megan kept her chin up, as she had since she was 17 when she found out she was pregnant and decided to raise her daughters alone. She searched for the girls with her eyes. She found them near the swing set. Sophie and Chloe, identical with their blonde hair and large brown eyes like their mothers, wore the impeccable Willowbrook uniforms, plaid skirts and starched white blouses that Megan ironed every night. They were surrounded by a group of children. "Your mum cleans my mum's house on Tuesdays," said a boy with spiky hair. "She broke a vase last week." "She did not break anything," defended Sophie, the more outspoken of the two. "My mom said you live in a small, ugly place," a girl with pigtails commented. Chloe, always quieter, held her sister's hand. Her eyes were already shining with unshed tears. Megan quickened her pace, but something made her stop. Her daughter's expressions. She had never seen that before. It wasn't just sadness or anger. It was shame. The girls, who at home proudly said their mother made everything sparkle like magic, now slumped their shoulders, looking down at their own shoes. Across the street, leaning against a gleaming black car, a man observed the scene. Liam Carter, 33, had just left a meeting in the office building opposite the school. His tailored dark suit and the discreet but very expensive watch on his wrist contrasted with the calculated simplicity of his gestures. Anyone who didn't know him would never guess he owned one of the largest tech companies in the country. Liam didn't intend to get involved. He was just waiting for his driver to return with a coffee while idly watching the school commotion. But something about that scene broke through his usual barrier. The woman in the cleaning uniform, the identical girls, the cruel laughter. Like a movie he had seen before, without realizing it, he was already crossing the street. He stopped on the sidewalk, still observing. He saw when the twins noticed their mother, and instead of running to her as they normally would, they stood frozen, torn between shame and love. "Look, the cleaner came to pick up the poor little twins," an older boy shouted, provoking laughter. That was when Chloe looked up and saw Liam standing there. Something in his eyes, a mixture of understanding and quiet strength, made her make a decision. She pulled her sister by the hand, and the two of them ran not to their mother, but to the well-dressed stranger. "Please," Chloe begged, her voice thick with tears streaming down her freckled face. "Can you stand up for our mommy?" Sophie, next to her sister, clenched her small fists. They're being mean to her just because she cleans for a living. Liam looked at the girls, then at Megan, who was watching the scene in confusion, frozen in the middle of the courtyard. Her face showed a mixture of confusion, shame, and a wounded pride he knew all too well. Without a word to the twins, Liam walked to the center of the courtyard. His presence, his straight posture, direct gaze, and the natural confidence of someone used to commanding rooms full of executives caused the conversations to quiet down. "This woman," he said, his voice clear and strong enough for everyone to hear but without shouting, "works with dignity. She cleans what you mess up, organizes what you clutter, and does it to give her daughters a quality education." He looked directly at the adults who had been whispering before. "What should be embarrassing isn't her uniform. It's your attitudes. You are the ones who should be ashamed. Your prejudice is the only dirty thing here." A complete silence fell over the courtyard. A few mothers exchanged uncomfortable glances. One father cleared his throat and looked at the ground. The children, sensing the change in the air, stopped laughing. Megan remained motionless, feeling her heart beat so fast she was sure everyone could hear it. Who was this man? Why was he defending her? And why had her daughters run to him, a stranger, instead of to her? The twins returned to their mother's side, each holding one of her hands. Suddenly they looked proud again. "He's nice, Mum," whispered Sophie. "He made everyone be quiet," added Chloe. Megan couldn't take her eyes off Liam, who was now walking back across the street as if nothing had happened. Before getting into the car that had just pulled up, he looked back once. His eyes met Megan's for a brief moment, a moment too short for a conversation, yet too long to be accidental. Then he got into the car and drove away, leaving behind a silent courtyard, 2 admiring girls, and a woman with 1,000 questions in her head. And, perhaps, the feeling that something important had just begun. The driver adjusted the rearview mirror and asked, "To the office, Mr. Carter." Liam didn't answer immediately. Sitting on the leather seat of the car, he looked out the window as the school receded behind them. The image of that woman in the light blue uniform, the teary-eyed girls, and the whispering adults was still vivid in his mind. "Mr. Carter." "No," he said finally. "Cancel my afternoon appointments. I want to go home." The driver nodded and changed direction. He knew his boss well enough to know when not to ask questions. Liam loosened his tie and closed his eyes. The silence of the luxury car was quickly filled with voices from the past, as clear as if they had just been spoken. "Look at Liam's mum. She cleans my aunt's house." "Why do you always wear those ugly clothes, Mrs. Carter?" "My dad said you live where the poor people live." Liam opened his eyes, but the memories kept coming, now accompanied by images. Rebecca Carter, his mother, in the same kind of uniform, arriving late to a parent-teacher meeting because of an extra job. The school principal looking her up and down, the other mothers subtly moving away when she approached. The car stopped at a red light. On the sidewalk, a young woman in a cleaning uniform waited for the bus, anxiously looking at her watch. Liam watched her, and for a moment, he saw his mother there, more than 20 years ago. Rebecca had been abandoned by her husband when Liam was only 3. One day, Thomas Carter simply didn't come home. He left behind a 25-year-old wife with no college degree, a young son, and a pile of debts they discovered later. "Your father had to go away," was all Rebecca explained to her son for years. It was only much later that Liam discovered the truth. Thomas had run off with his secretary and all the money from their small family business. The light turned green, and the car continued down the tree-lined avenue leading to the exclusive neighborhood where Liam lived. He remembered how his mother fought to keep them afloat, first as a supermarket cashier during the day and a waitress at night. Then, when she realized cleaning paid better, she started working for a housekeeping service. "Some clients pay extra if you do a good job," she would say, proudly showing him the tips. "And the best part, I can make my own hours to be with you after school." Rebecca never complained. She would get up at 5 in the morning, prepare breakfast and lunch for her son, drop him off at school, and then go on to clean houses and offices until the end of the day. Liam remembered seeing her fall asleep on the sofa while trying to help him with his homework, her hands red and rough from the constant use of cleaning products. The car entered the private gated community and stopped in front of Liam's modern mansion, glass, concrete, and wood combined in sleek straight lines, surrounded by an impeccable garden. Everything was clean, organized, and empty. "Should I come back later, sir?" the driver asked. "That won't be necessary. Take the rest of the day off." Alone in the spacious living room overlooking the city, Liam poured himself a glass of whiskey and walked to the wall where he kept a few photographs. In the center, a middle-aged woman smiled shyly, her graying hair framing a tired but happy face. Rebecca on the day of Liam's graduation with his engineering degree. She hadn't lived to see the success of the tech company he founded. An aggressive cancer took her when Liam was only 26, fresh out of college and starting his first business. "Those girls were me," he murmured into the silence of the house. "That woman was you, Mom." He sat on the sofa and let the memories flow. The weekends when his mother took on extra cleaning jobs to afford his school supplies, the time she saved for months to give him a second-hand computer for Christmas, something that changed his life and set his future in technology. And the humiliations, the stares, the whispers, the shame he felt as a child, which slowly turned into admiration as he grew up and understood her sacrifice. He remembered a specific day. He was 11, and his mother picked him up from school wearing her uniform. A group of boys started laughing. One of them shouted something about a cleaner. Liam, filled with a childish rage and a shame he didn't understand, yelled at his own mother, "Why couldn't you change your clothes before coming? Everyone is laughing at us." The look in Rebecca's eyes at that moment, a mix of pain, understanding, and unconditional love. She didn't yell back. She just held her son's hand and said, "One day you'll understand, my love. What matters isn't what people wear, but who they are on the inside." Liam's phone rang, pulling him back to the present. It was his assistant, asking about the cancelled meetings. He hung up without answering. He closed his eyes again and saw the face of that woman in the schoolyard. Megan, that was the name one of the girls had called. And the twins, so small and already facing the same prejudice he had known. For the first time in years, Liam felt something break through the carefully constructed barrier around his emotions. That scene in the courtyard had touched an old wound that had never fully healed. "What would you do, Mom?" he asked the photograph. "What would you say if you were here?" He knew the answer. Rebecca always said that life puts people in our path for a reason, and that ignoring someone in need when you can help is to miss the chance to honor the help you once received. Liam picked up his phone and called his private investigator. He needed to know more about that family. The impact of that scene was much deeper than he could have imagined. The next morning, Liam woke up early, even before his alarm went off. He had slept poorly, thinking about the family he had met by chance. Around 5 in the morning, the email from the private investigator arrived with a preliminary report. Megan Thompson, 29, single mother of identical twin girls born when she was 24. She had been working for the Clean First company for 4 years and had a second part-time job as a cashier at a drugstore on weekends. She lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in a modest neighborhood, about 20 minutes from the school where the girls studied on a full scholarship. No criminal record, no significant debts other than a small student loan. A simple, organized and, from the looks of it, solitary life. As he had coffee in the large, silent kitchen of his mansion, Liam decided he would go back to the school that afternoon. He didn't know exactly why, maybe to check if the girls were okay after the incident, or maybe because that scene had awakened something dormant inside him, a connection to his own past that he couldn't ignore. Instead of his usual suit, he chose more casual clothes, dark jeans, a light blue shirt, and a lightweight blazer. He wanted to seem less intimidating. Before leaving, he stopped by a bookstore downtown and, after some time, browsed the children's section. He chose a colorful book about 2 sisters who helped magical animals. The saleswoman mentioned it was the first volume of a popular series among 5 to 8-year-olds. "Is this for your daughters?" the woman asked, smiling as she gift-wrapped the book. "No," Liam replied, "just for some friends." The word sounded strange on his lips. He didn't have friends with young children. In fact, he barely had friends at all, just colleagues, business partners, and superficial acquaintances at charity events. Loneliness was the price he paid for success, and he rarely bothered with it, until now. He arrived at the school 15 minutes before dismissal. He parked his car across the street and waited, feeling a strange anxiety that didn't fit the CEO of a billion-dollar company, accustomed to making decisions that affected hundreds of employees. The bell rang promptly at 3 in the afternoon. Children began to pour out of the gates in noisy groups, followed by teachers and some parents who came to pick up the younger kids. Liam spotted Megan arriving, this time without her cleaning uniform, wearing simple jeans and a blue blouse. Even so, he noticed how some parents kept their distance, as if the uniform from the previous day was still visible. Sophie and Chloe came out hand in hand, looking around curiously. When they saw their mother, they smiled and started running towards her, but stopped suddenly when they recognized Liam across the street. Their identical little faces lit up. "Look, Sophie, it's the man who stood up for Mommy," Chloe shouted, pulling her sister by the hand. Before Megan could react, the two were already running across the street toward Liam. He smiled, genuinely touched by the girl's enthusiasm. "Hi," said Sophie, stopping in front of him with her hands on her hips. "You came back." "We wanted to thank you," added Chloe, shyer than her sister. "The teacher said you were very brave." Megan crossed right behind them, visibly tense. Her eyes darted between her daughters and the stranger who, the day before, had caused such a commotion at the school. Liam noticed she had deep, dark circles under her eyes and was gripping her purse strap tightly, as if ready to pull the girls away and run at any moment. "Girls, come back here," she called in a firm but not harsh voice. Liam raised his hands in a placating gesture. "Sorry, I didn't mean to intrude," he said. "I just came by to see how you were after yesterday." "We're fine," Megan replied, placing her hands on her daughter's shoulders. "And I appreciate what you did, but you didn't need to come back." "Mom," Sophie interrupted, looking up at her. "He's nice. He made everyone stop laughing. And nobody bothered us today," added Chloe. Liam noticed Megan's discomfort. It was the same his mother used to show when someone tried to help her, a mix of gratitude and wounded pride. He also recognized the exhaustion behind her defensive posture. He knew how hard it was to raise children alone, work all day, and still maintain one's dignity. "Actually," he said, breaking the awkward silence, "I brought something for the girls, if you'll allow it, of course." He took the carefully wrapped book from the bag and offered it. The twins looked at their mother, silently asking for permission with hopeful eyes. Megan hesitated for a moment, then took the package and carefully removed the wrapping paper. "The Adventures of the Taylor Sisters," she read aloud, examining the colorful cover that showed two girls who looked a lot like Sophie and Chloe. "It's about twins." "The salesperson said it's a popular series," Liam explained. "I thought it might be interesting. If you don't like it, you can exchange it for another one." "Look, Chloe," exclaimed Sophie, taking the book from her mother's hands after she nodded. "They have a magic rabbit and a talking cat," Chloe pointed out, looking over her sister's shoulder. While the girls excitedly flipped through the gift, Liam and Megan watched each other in silence. He noticed her eyes, deep brown, tired, suspicious, but with an intelligence that surprised him. She studied him as if trying to decipher his true intentions. "I'm Liam Carter." He finally introduced himself, extending his hand. "Megan Thompson," she replied, accepting the handshake with a firm grip, stronger than he expected. "I'm sorry if I caused any embarrassment yesterday," he continued. "I couldn't help but intervene. The scene reminded me of something from my past." She studied him for a moment, tilting her head slightly. "I don't understand why someone like you would care. Someone like me. You know, successful, rich. Your watch probably costs more than my rent for 6 months." Liam glanced at the watch on his wrist, a gift he had given himself when his company reached its first billion-dollar valuation. Megan was right. "Looks can be deceiving, Ms. Thompson. I wasn't always someone like me, eh?" Something in the way he said it made Megan look at him more closely. The twins, still entertained by the book, sat on a nearby bench. "Mommy likes to read too," said Sophie suddenly, without looking up from the page. "She reads to us every night before bed. Even when she's really tired," added Chloe. "Even when she gets home late from work." Liam smiled. "That shows she's a great mom." The comment made Megan blush slightly. She consulted her worn wristwatch and frowned. "We have to go," she said. "I have another job in an hour." The girls reluctantly handed the book back to Liam, but he shook his head. "It's a gift. You can keep it." "We can't accept it," Megan said quickly. "Please," Liam insisted. "It would make me happy to know you're enjoying the book." There was a moment of hesitation, but the sparkle in the twins' eyes eventually convinced Megan. She nodded reluctantly. "Thank you, then." "Could we perhaps meet again?" Liam asked. "Maybe for coffee. I'd like to explain more about yesterday." Megan seemed surprised by the invitation. "I don't know if that's a good idea," she replied, gently pulling her daughters by their hands. "Come on, girls. We have to catch the bus." "Bye, Mr. Liam," the twins said in unison, waving as they walked away. Liam watched the three of them walk down the sidewalk, the mother between the two identical girls, each holding one of her hands. There was something about that family that touched him deeply, a quiet resilience he knew all too well. In the days that followed, Liam returned to the school. Not every day. He didn't want to seem invasive or creepy, but 2 or 3 times a week, always at the same time. He never entered the courtyard, remaining across the street, respecting Megan's space. He always brought a small gift, another book from the same series, good quality colored pencils, small sketchbooks, simple gifts, carefully chosen not to offend Megan's pride, but that made the girls' eyes shine. The first few times, Megan kept her distance, just nodding politely while the girls ran to greet him. Gradually, however, she began to approach as well. They exchanged a few words, comments about the weather, about how the twins were doing in school. Nothing personal, nothing deep, but Liam felt that each small conversation was a stone removed from the wall she had built around herself. On a particularly sunny afternoon, almost 2 weeks after their first meeting, Liam showed up with 3 ice cream cones instead of books. The twins jumped for joy when they saw him. "You know our favorite flavors," exclaimed Sophie, receiving a strawberry ice cream. "And you remembered I prefer chocolate," said Chloe, taking hers. "I brought vanilla for you," Liam said, offering the 3rd cone to Megan. "I hope you like it." "How did you know it's my favorite?" she asked, accepting the gift with a discreet smile that lit up her tired face. Liam shrugged. A hunch. It was a lie, of course. He had asked the girls during his previous visit, when Megan was distracted paying the bus fare. But something about the way she smiled as she accepted the ice cream made the little lie worthwhile. They sat on a bench in the park across from the school. The twins played a few feet away, chasing each other with laughter. The late afternoon sun painted everything in a golden light, softening the city's contours. "They seem happier," Liam commented, watching the girls. "They are," Megan confirmed, licking her ice cream. "After that day, the other kids stopped teasing them. Some parents even started saying hello to me." "I'm glad to hear that, but I still don't understand why you keep coming back." The question was direct, no beating around the bush. Typical of her, Liam thought. In their few conversations, he had noticed how Megan got straight to the point, without the social games he was used to in the corporate world. Liam watched the girls for a moment before answering. "My mother was also a cleaner," he said finally. "She raised me alone after my father left us. I saw the same look on your face that I used to see on hers when people judged her for her uniform." Megan stared at him, surprised. But you seem so rich, successful?" He smiled without humor. "I got lucky, and I had an incredible mother who sacrificed everything so I could have opportunities." For the first time, Megan really looked at Liam, not at the rich man in expensive clothes, but at the person. There was a sincerity in his eyes that didn't match the image she had of successful men, usually arrogant, condescending, treating people like her as invisible. "Your mother must be very proud of you." "She passed away a few years ago," he replied, his voice slightly lower. "Cancer. She didn't live to see my company's success. I'm so sorry." A comfortable silence settled between them. It was no longer the tension of their first meetings, but something different. A mutual understanding, a silent bridge built on shared experiences. In the following weeks, Liam's visits became part of the routine. Sometimes he would show up with a new book. Other times, he would just chat with the girls about their day at school, listening patiently as they told him, often at the same time and interrupting each other, about the lesson they learned or the drawing they made. He listened with genuine interest, asked questions, and laughed at their childish jokes that rarely made sense. Sophie, the more extroverted one, usually dominated the conversations. while Chloe, more observant, stayed slightly behind, but her eyes never left Liam's face, as if studying his every reaction. In just a few days, the twins were running to hug him as soon as they saw him, without any hesitation or shyness. Megan watched this growing closeness with mixed feelings. On one hand, she was still suspicious. Years of hardship had built a protective wall around her. On the other, she couldn't deny the joy her daughters felt in Liam's presence, nor how sincere he seemed in his gestures. No man had ever shown such genuine interest in her daughters before, not even their biological father. On a Friday, almost a month after their first meeting, Liam brought a small puzzle for each girl. They weren't expensive or extravagant toys. He had learned that Megan refused gifts she considered too costly, but well-made wooden puzzles with large, colorful pieces, perfect for small hands. They sat on the park benches to assemble them together, with Megan helping Chloe and Liam assisting Sophie. "You have a way with children," Megan commented, watching his patience as he explained where each piece fit. "I like their honesty," Liam replied. "Kids don't fake interest or admiration. If they don't like something, you know right away." "Sophie and Chloe certainly like you," Megan said, not realizing how the words sounded until they were out of her mouth. Liam smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his usually serious face. "The feeling is mutual. They're incredible girls, smart, polite, creative. You've done a great job raising them." "I do my best," she replied, helping Chloe place the last piece. "It's not always easy." "I can imagine." By the time they finished the puzzles, it was late afternoon. The sun was beginning to set, coloring the sky with orange hues that reflected off the glass buildings of the city center. "We need to go," Megan said, putting the pieces back in the boxes. "I have to make dinner before I go to my second job." That's when Chloe, the quieter of the two, looked at Liam with her big brown eyes and said, with the typical innocence of a 5-year-old, "Mommy wants you to come have dinner with us." Megan froze, the puzzle pieces falling back into the box. Sophie giggled, us covering her mouth with her hands. "Chloe," Megan exclaimed, blushing intensely, "I never said that." "But you told Aunt Julie you wanted to invite him," Chloe insisted. "I heard you when you were in the kitchen." "And you said he's handsome," Sophie added, making things worse. "And that he has kind eyes." Megan's face turned even redder. Liam tried to hide a smile but failed. "You don't have to be embarrassed," he said. "I'd be delighted to have dinner with you if the invitation is real." I mean, the girls misunderstood," Megan tried to explain. I just mentioned to my friend that you had been kind, and that maybe we should thank you properly and—" "Please, Mom," begged Sophie, pulling on the sleeve of Megan's blouse. "Can we invite Mr. Liam for dinner, please? You can make that spaghetti that everyone loves. And we can show him our room," added Chloe. "And the drawings on the wall." Megan looked at her daughters, then at Liam, who was patiently waiting for her answer. The last rays of sun illuminated his face, and she noticed small wrinkles around his eyes when he smiled, signs of a life lived, not just observed. "All right," she finally gave in. "If you want to, you can come have dinner with us." "Nothing special, just a simple meal." "To me, it would be special," Liam replied, with a sincerity that disarmed her. "I have dinner alone most nights." "When?" asked Sophie, practically jumping with excitement. "When would be convenient for you?" Liam asked Megan. "Tomorrow," Chloe suggested, looking hopefully at her mother. Megan hesitated for a moment. Tomorrow was Saturday, her only completely free day. She usually used the morning to clean the house and the afternoon for activities with the girls. The idea of having a visitor, especially someone like Liam, in her small apartment made her nervous. But the sparkle in her daughter's eyes. "So tomorrow," she agreed, still not believing she was actually inviting this man into her modest home. "At 7. 7 is perfect," Liam confirmed. "Can I bring anything? Dessert, perhaps?" "Ice cream!" the twins shouted in unison. Liam laughed. "Ice cream it is." As they walked to the bus stop, the girls skipped ahead, excited about the next day's dinner, already discussing which toys they would show Liam first. "See you tomorrow," he said goodbye, waving from his car. "See you tomorrow," Megan replied, feeling a strange mix of anxiety and anticipation. On the back seat of the bus, As the girls chatted excitedly about which pajamas they would wear for dinner with Mr. Liam, Megan looked out the window at the darkening city. Something was changing in her life, something she hadn't planned or sought, something that scared her and, at the same time, brought a nearly forgotten sense of hope. She looked at her daughters, radiant with happiness at the prospect of the next day's dinner, and felt a lump in her throat. It had been a long time since she had seen them so excited. It had been a long time since she herself had felt that slight flutter in her chest, that good kind of nervousness that came with the expectation of something positive. Maybe, she thought, as the bus made its way through the busy city streets, maybe this silent bridge that was forming would lead somewhere good, or maybe not. But, for the first time in years, Megan was willing to find out. The next evening, Liam parked his car in front of Megan's apartment building. It was an old 3-story building, with a simple facade and a small green area at the entrance where a few children were playing. Nothing like the luxury gated community where he lived, but there was something welcoming in the place's simplicity. Carrying a bag with 3 tubs of ice cream, strawberry for Sophie, chocolate for Chloe and vanilla for Megan, and a small bouquet of wildflowers, Liam felt a nervousness he hadn't experienced in years. He checked his watch, 7 o'clock sharp. He took a deep breath and rang the bell for apartment 204. The door opened almost immediately, revealing the twins with identical smiles and damp hair, fresh from their bath. "Mr. Liam," they exclaimed in unison, pulling him by the hand. "You brought ice cream." "As promised," he confirmed, letting himself be guided inside. The apartment was small but tidy and cozy. The living room and kitchen formed a single space, separated by a counter. There was a 2-seater sofa covered with a colorful blanket, a coffee table with some children's books, and a bookshelf with photos of the girls at different ages. The walls, painted a soft yellow, were decorated with framed children's drawings. Megan appeared from the kitchen, drying her hands on a dish towel. She wore jeans and a simple light blue blouse, her hair down and falling over her shoulders, a different look than Liam was used to seeing. "Welcome," she said with a shy smile. "I hope you like spaghetti. It's the house specialty." "My favorite," Liam replied, handing her the flowers. They're just some wildflowers, nothing fancy." Megan seemed surprised by the gesture. "They're beautiful, thank you." The twins, excited by the visit, pulled Liam through the living room, eager to show him their toys, books, and the small fish tank with 2 goldfish. "This is Bubbles and this is Splash," Sophie explained, pointing to the fish swimming peacefully. "Liam is having dinner with us," Chloe announced to the fish, as if they needed to be informed. The smell of tomato sauce and fresh herbs filled the apartment. On the small dining table, carefully set, was a platter of spaghetti, a bowl of salad, and a basket of homemade bread. "It's nothing sophisticated," Megan warned as they served the plates. "It looks delicious," Liam replied sincerely, "and it smells wonderful." During dinner, the conversation flowed naturally. The twins dominated much of the dialogue, telling stories from school, asking about Liam's work, and suggesting places to visit together in the future. "We could go to the zoo," Sophie suggested. "Or the science museum," added Chloe. "They have real dinosaurs there." "Well, they're not real," Megan gently corrected. "They're fossils and replicas." "But they're huge," Chloe insisted, opening her arms to demonstrate. Liam smiled, observing the interaction between mother and daughters. There was a rhythm between them, a harmony that only comes from shared time and love. He felt simultaneously like a guest and a part of this small universe. After dessert, when the girls started to yawn, Megan announced it was bedtime. "But Liam is going to tell us a story, right?" Sophie asked, looking hopefully at her mother and then at their guest. "If he wants to," Megan replied. "I'd be delighted," Liam said. The girls jumped excitedly and ran to their room to choose a book. Liam followed Megan down the short hallway to a cozy room with 2 twin beds, shelves full of books and toys, and walls decorated with glowing stars. Sitting on the edge of one of the beds, Liam read "The Dragon Who Was Afraid of Fire," using different voices for each character, to the twins' delight. By the time he finished, the girls were already fighting off sleep. "Will you be here tomorrow?" Chloe asked as Megan tucked her in. "Not tomorrow," Liam replied. but I can come back another day, if your mum lets me. She'll let you, Sophie stated confidently, her eyes already closed. She likes you. Megan blushed slightly, turned off the main light, leaving only a nightlight on, and motioned for them to leave. Back in the living room, a comfortable silence settled between them. Megan offered a glass of wine, which Liam accepted. They sat on the sofa at a respectful distance from each other. You're great with them, Megan commented after a sip. I bet you have a knack with kids. They make it easy, he replied. They're special girls. Yes, they are. Megan swirled the glass between her fingers, thoughtful. Liam, there's something I need to tell you. About their father. Liam nodded, giving her space to continue. Megan took a deep breath as if gathering courage. Their father is in prison. He was unstable, aggressive. When I got pregnant, I ran away without telling him. I moved to a new city to start over. Her eyes met Liam's, revealing a deep fear. But I'm still afraid he'll show up one day. Liam listened in silence, his face serious but without judgment. When Megan finished, he placed his glass on the coffee table and turned to face her. You did what you had to do, he said with gentle firmness. That's courage. Some would call it cowardice, she replied, her voice almost a whisper, running away instead of facing it. No, Liam shook his head. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting in spite of it. You protected your daughters, rebuilt your life from scratch. That takes more strength than most people have. His words touched something deep within Megan. It was the first time someone had understood her decision without questioning it, without judging. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Sorry, she said, wiping it away quickly. I don't usually talk about this. You don't have to apologize, Liam replied. And you don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. They sat in silence for a moment, the ticking of the clock on the wall, the only sound in the apartment. Thank you for dinner, Liam said finally. It was the best night I've had in a long time. Even though it was so simple, Megan asked with a shy smile. Especially because it was simple, he replied. And real. When Liam said goodbye at the door, something had changed between them. A barrier had fallen, a trust was beginning to form, the fear was still there, the uncertainties remained, but now there was also a possibility, faint as the first light of morning but real. And sometimes, a possibility is all you need to start believing again. In the weeks that followed, Liam began to show up more often. At first, they were occasional visits, always with some excuse, a new book for the girls, a tool to fix the dripping faucet, a movie he thought everyone would enjoy. But soon, the excuses became unnecessary. His presence, once a special event, became a natural part of their routine. On Wednesdays, after work, Liam would show up with ingredients for dinner. They would cook together, with the twins helping in their own clumsy way, spreading more flour than mixing, but laughing the whole time. On Saturdays, they often spent the entire day together, at the park when the weather was nice, or at home with board games and stories when it rained. On a rainy afternoon, while Megan was finishing some reports for work, Liam helped the girls build a fort using sheets, chairs, and clothespins. The small apartment was transformed into an enchanted castle, with Sophie and Chloe as warrior princesses and Liam as the guardian dragon. Watch out, dragon. We're going to defeat you, Sophie shouted, brandishing a paper towel tube as a sword. Roar, roared Liam, crawling behind the sofa. No one can defeat the mighty Liam, the terrible dragon. Megan, watching from the kitchen table, couldn't help but smile. The man who ran a billion-dollar company was on all fours on her apartment floor, roaring and letting himself be defeated by two 5-year-old girls armed with paper tubes. Come help us, Mummy, Chloe called. We need backup. I'm almost done, Megan replied. Save some dragon for me. This was how it was now. Shared moments, games, daily tasks divided without anyone needing to ask. Liam knew where the dishes were, knew the girls' bath routine, noticed when Megan was too tired, and naturally took over making dinner or story time. For the twins, Liam's presence quickly became something they looked forward to with excitement. They would ask for him when he wasn't there, save drawings to show him when he arrived, and ask for him to be the one to tell the bedtime story. Megan watched this transformation with conflicting feelings. On one hand, There was fear. Fear of depending, of trusting, of opening up again. On the other, a quiet happiness grew inside her as she saw her daughters so happy, as she felt the atmosphere of her small apartment become lighter, more joyful. She was changing too. Her smile, once rare and restrained, now appeared more frequently. The constant tension in her shoulders, the ever-watchful gaze, signs of someone who had spent years on high alert, were beginning to soften. She allowed herself small moments of relaxation, of vulnerability, of hope. One Wednesday, Megan's phone rang as she was rushing to finish cleaning an office downtown. "Ms. Thompson, this is Principal Ramirez. Sophie has a fever. We need you to come pick her up." Panic seized Megan. She was 40 minutes from the school, kind without a car, with 2 houses to clean before her shift ended. After hanging up, she hesitated for only a second before calling Liam. He answered on the second ring. "I'm leaving now," he said as soon as Megan explained the situation. "I'll call the school to let them know I'm on my way to get her." When Megan arrived home hours later, exhausted and worried, she found a scene she would have never imagined months before. Sophie sleeping peacefully in her room after taking her fever medicine, Chloe doing her homework at the kitchen table, and Liam with his sleeves rolled up, preparing a homemade soup. "How is she?" Megan asked, leaving her purse on the hook by the door. "Better," he replied. "The doctor said it's just a cold. Nothing serious." "Doctor, I thought it was best to check. Her fever was high." Liam stopped stirring the soup. "I should have asked first, I'm sorry." "No," Megan said, approaching. "Thank you. I would have done the same." That day marked a change. What was once occasional help became a silent partnership. Liam didn't just visit, he participated. He was there when Sophie needed help with her science project, when the hallway light bulb burned out late at night, when Chloe had nightmares and couldn't go back to sleep. One night, after the girls had finally fallen asleep after a marathon of stories, Liam and Megan sat on the small apartment balcony, sharing a cheap glass of wine. "Thank you for today," she said. "I don't know how I would have done it all alone." "You don't have to thank me," he replied. "I like being here, helping." "The girls adore you," Megan commented, watching the stars begin to appear in the night sky. "The feeling is mutual," Liam replied with a smile. "They're incredible kids, smart, funny, brave, like their mother." Megan felt her face warm at the compliment but didn't look away. "Do you know what Sophie asked me yesterday?" she continued. "She asked if you were going to live with us someday." Liam almost choked on his wine. "And what did you say?" "That adult life is complicated," Megan shrugged. "It was the best answer I could come up with at the moment." A comfortable silence settled between them. Down on the street, people hurried home, cars honked, the city continued its rhythm. But there, on that small balcony, time felt different, slower, kinder. The weeks turned into months. Megan's apartment gained small signs of Liam's constant presence. A toothbrush in the bathroom, a few books on the shelf, a jacket hanging behind the door, for emergencies. On a sunny Sunday, after a simple lunch, the girls convinced Liam to help them assemble a new 500-piece puzzle, an ambitious task for 5-year-olds, but one that seemed less intimidating with him around. They spread the pieces on the living room floor, organizing them by color while Megan washed the dishes in the kitchen. "I think this one is part of the sky," said Sophie, holding up a blue piece. "And this one is from the tree," added Chloe, separating green pieces. Liam, sitting on the floor between them, helped patiently, guiding without doing it for them, celebrating each small achievement. As they worked, he looked around the modest but cozy apartment. The girls, drawings on the fridge, the photos in simple frames, the worn but clean sofa, the books organized by color on the shelf. The sound of Megan humming softly in the kitchen, the smell of fresh coffee, the sunlight streaming through the window and creating patterns on the wooden floor. Something inside him quieted, that constant restlessness he had always carried, even amidst professional success, wealth and achievements. Here, sitting on the floor with 2 5-year-old girls trying to assemble a puzzle that was too difficult for them, he felt a peace he had never experienced in his pristine mansion overlooking the lake. He took a deep breath and, almost without realizing it, said aloud, "I feel good here." with you all. Like this is where I belong. The girls remained focused on the puzzle, too absorbed to register the weight of that confession. But in the kitchen, Megan froze, her coffee cup suspended halfway to her lips. Liam didn't expect a response. He wasn't even sure if he wanted anyone to have heard. It was more a thought that had escaped, a truth that needed to be spoken, even if only to himself. Megan entered the living room carrying her coffee cup and sat on the sofa behind them. Her eyes met Liam's, a silent conversation taking place without words. She didn't respond verbally to his confession, but her gaze said it all. The recognition, the gratitude, and maybe, just maybe, an echo of the same feeling. The afternoon progressed peacefully, with the puzzle slowly taking shape. At some point, Megan joined them on the floor, bringing cookies and juice for everyone. They worked in comfortable harmony, as if they had done this hundreds of times before. "This part is too hard," sighed Sophie, frustrated with the sky pieces that all looked the same. "Sometimes we have to try many possibilities until we find the right one," Liam explained gently. "Don't give up." As he helped Chloe fit two particularly challenging pieces together, Sophie looked at Liam with curiosity. "Do you have kids, Liam?" she asked suddenly. The question caught everyone by surprise. Megan stopped what she was doing, attentive to the answer. Liam placed the piece he was holding back on the floor and looked directly at Sophie, taking the question with the seriousness it deserved. "No," he answered honestly. "I don't have children." "Why?" Sophie insisted, tilting her head. "Don't you like kids?" "I like them very much," he assured her, smiling. "In fact, I've always wanted to have kids." "Then why don't you have any?" persisted Chloe, now also interested in the conversation. Liam thought for a moment, searching for the right words to explain something so complex to 5-year-olds. "Because I was waiting for the right family," he said finally. "I dream of having a family. I wanted to be a dad. I just hadn't found the right person." Megan lowered her eyes to the puzzle, pretending to concentrate as her heart sped up. There was something in his voice, a disarming sincerity, a vulnerability he rarely showed. "You would be a good dad," declared Sophie with the absolute conviction that only children possess. "It's true," Chloe agreed. "So you know how to tell stories and make good food, and you don't get mad when we spill juice." Liam smiled, visibly touched by the simple yet profound comments. "Those are important qualities," he agreed, trying to keep his voice light despite the emotion he felt. Chloe, usually the quieter and more observant of the two, looked at Liam with her big brown eyes. There was a seriousness in her small face that made her seem much older than her 5 years. "You're a good man, Liam," she said with disarming simplicity. "You could be our dad." The silence that followed seemed to amplify the ticking of the clock on the wall. Liam sat motionless, Chloe's words reverberating in his mind. In the kitchen, where she had retreated with the excuse of getting more cookies, Megan gripped the edge of the sink, feeling her chest tighten. It wasn't pain, exactly. It was an emotion so intense, it manifested physically. Emotion for her daughter's innocent words, for the possibility they evoked, and fear, the familiar fear that always accompanied her, the fear of trusting, of believing, of opening herself up to something that could fall apart. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to control her breathing. When she opened them again, she saw her distorted reflection in the kitchen window, a woman holding on tight as she always had, but with something new in her eyes, something that looked dangerously like hope. Back in the living room, with the plate of cookies that no one really needed, she found Liam patiently explaining to the girls that adult relationships were complicated, but that he felt very honored they thought of him that way. His eyes met Megan's for a brief moment, a look loaded with unasked questions, unexplored possibilities, and feelings not yet named. And on that ordinary Sunday, as the sun began to set and the puzzle pieces slowly found their places, something was changing. Something was beginning to belong. Spring arrived, bringing longer days and milder nights. Megan's small apartment now had its windows open for most of the day, letting in the fresh breeze and the distant sounds of the city. With the change of season, something also blossomed between Liam and Megan. Small gestures of intimacy that would have once been unthinkable now happened naturally, without planning or hesitation. When Liam passed by Megan in the tight kitchen, his hand would rest lightly on her back for an instant. When she handed him a cup of coffee, their fingers would touch and linger for a second longer than necessary. When they watched television with the girls, they sat closer and closer on the small sofa until their shoulders touched, their legs brushed against each other. These were brief moments, almost imperceptible to any outside observer, but for them, each touch carried the weight of a story being slowly rewritten. The silences also changed. Before, there were moments of comfortable silence between them. Now, there were moments of significant silence. The difference was subtle, but profound. When their gazes met over the girls' heads during dinner, they held for an extra instant, communicating without words what they were not yet ready to say. On a particularly pleasant Friday night, after the twins had finally fallen asleep after a marathon of stories and games, Liam and Megan escaped to the small apartment balcony. The space was minimal, just large enough for 2 plastic chairs and an improvised table, but it had become their refuge, the place where they could share small moments of peace after the apartment finally fell silent. Megan brought 2 glasses of cheap wine, something that had become a Friday ritual. They sat side by side, watching the city lights and the sky which, even with the light pollution, revealed a few stubborn stars. "The girls were impossible today," Megan commented, taking a sip of wine. "I think their teacher gave them chocolate at school." "Sophie really does have endless energy," Liam agreed, smiling. "But I managed to tire Chloe out with that treasure hunt game." "You're good at that," Megan said. At knowing exactly what each one needs, Liam shrugged, but his smile revealed how much the compliment meant to him. "It's easy when you love someone." The words came out naturally, without planning. They hung in the night air between them, charged with meaning. Megan didn't reply, but her hand found his on the arm of the chair. They intertwined their fingers, looking forward at the city lights, not at the gesture they shared. They stayed like that for a long time, hands joined, gazes distant, hearts growing ever closer. There was no need for words. The gentle spring breeze, the distant murmur of traffic, their quiet breathing, that was the soundtrack of that moment. Nothing was said, but everything was understood. When the night air grew colder, they went back inside. The twins had fallen asleep on the sofa while watching an animated movie. Sophie with her mouth slightly open, one arm dangling off the sofa, and Chloe curled up as she always did, hugging the stuffed rabbit Liam had given her weeks ago. "We should get them to bed," Megan whispered, adjusting the blanket over them. "We can leave them here just a little longer," Liam suggested, also in a low voice. "They look so comfortable." They sat in the armchairs on either side of the sofa, looking at the sleeping girls. There was something deeply intimate in that moment, watching the children sleep together, sharing that instant of vulnerability and peace. "They trust you so much," Megan commented. "I have never seen them get attached to anyone like this." "They're special," Liam replied, "all 3 of you." His eyes met Megan's over the sleeping girls, and this time they didn't look away. There was an intensity in that gaze, a certainty that wasn't there before. "Liam, I'm scared," he interrupted softly, the words almost a whisper so as not to wake the children. "Because I already love you." The confession hung between them like something physical, palpable. It wasn't just a declaration, it was a truth that had grown slowly over months, taking shape and substance until it could no longer be contained. Megan felt tears well up, blurring her vision. They weren't tears of sadness nor exactly of happiness. They were tears of recognition, of finally hearing in words something she already knew in her heart. "I don't know when it happened," Liam continued, his voice still low but firm. "It wasn't planned, I wasn't looking for it, but it happened. And now, I can't imagine my life without the 3 of you in it." A tear escaped, rolling down Megan's cheek. She wiped it away quickly, embarrassed by her own emotion. Chloe stirred in her sleep, murmuring something unintelligible before returning to stillness. Careful not to disturb the girls, Megan leaned forward and held Liam's hand calmly, their fingers intertwining as they had so many times in recent weeks, but this time with a new meaning, a new weight. I love you too, she confessed, her voice almost breaking with contained emotion. But I still carry fear. I still protect myself. Liam gently squeezed her hand, a gentle pressure that said he understood, that he respected her fears, that he didn't expect years of protection to disappear all at once. I don't want you to stop protecting yourself, he said. I just want to be inside those protections. With you. With them. Sophie mumbled in her sleep, turning over and nearly slipping off the sofa. They both reacted at the same time, adjusting her back to a safe position, their hands touching in the process. When they looked at each other again, there was a shared smile, the kind of smile that only exists between people who face the small challenges of everyday life together. This scares me, Megan admitted. How all of this happened so naturally, how you fit into our lives. It scares me too, Liam confessed. I never imagined I would find this. A family. The word hung between them. Family. It wasn't a proposal, not a promise. It was just the recognition of what they had already become, without realizing it. I don't know what happens now, Megan said, looking at the girls. I don't know how to move forward from here. We don't have to know yet, Liam replied. We can figure it out together, one day at a time. The silence returned, but different from all the previous ones. It was a full silence, full of possibilities, of hope, of a mutual understanding that needed no words to exist. They didn't kiss. There was no grand gesture, no dramatic move, just hands joined over the sofa where the girls slept, gazes that didn't stray, hearts beating in sync. There was no rush. What they were building, this fragile, precious understanding, was too important to be hurried. The scars they both carried, in different ways, needed time to heal completely. Megan's fears, Liam's loneliness, none of it would disappear overnight. But there, in that quiet moment, with the children sleeping between them, something deep and true was acknowledged. They recognized each other, whole, real, with all their imperfections and hesitations, and they recognized themselves as willing to try, to risk, to believe that maybe, just maybe, some stories can have happy endings, even for people who stopped believing in them a long time ago. And for now, that was enough. Saturday morning started like so many others in recent months. Liam had slept on the sofa after a night of movies and board games with the twins. He was making pancakes in the kitchen while Megan set the table for breakfast. The sweet aroma of batter and the smell of coffee filled the small apartment, creating that cozy weekend atmosphere they had learned to value together. Sophie and Chloe were still asleep, taking advantage of the weekend to rest a little longer. Through the kitchen window, the spring sun streamed in golden beams, illuminating the shared space. We could take the girls to the amusement park that opened downtown, Liam suggested, flipping a pancake. So I saw it has a special area for little kids. They would love that, Megan agreed, placing plates on the table. Sophie hasn't stopped talking about the Ferris wheel since she saw the commercial on TV. It was a simple, everyday moment, the kind of light conversation they had shared hundreds of times. Nothing indicated that this day would be different from all the others, until the doorbell rang, followed by violent banging on the building's main door that echoed up to the third floor where they lived. I know you're in there, Megan. Open this door now. The harsh, loud male voice froze Megan where she stood. The glass she was holding slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. Her face lost all its color in an instant. Travis, she whispered, the name coming out as a breath of pure terror. Liam left the spatula on the stove and quickly moved to the side window, peeking through the curtain. At the building entrance, a man of average height but broad shoulders was furiously banging on the intercom. Disheveled dark hair, unshaven, wrinkled clothes. His movements were abrupt, almost erratic. Is that him? Liam asked, turning to Megan, who seemed petrified. She just nodded, her eyes fixed on the door as if expecting it to explode at any moment. Her hands were visibly shaking, and her breathing had become rapid and shallow. How did he find us? She murmured, more to herself than to Liam. I was so careful. All these years. The banging continued, now accompanied by more shouts that echoed throughout the building. Megan, I know you're hiding my daughters. You have no right to keep them from me. Open this damn door. The noise woke the twins. Sophie appeared at the living room entrance, rubbing her sleepy eyes, with Chloe right behind her, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Mommy, who's yelling?" Sophie asked, confused. Megan reacted instantly, moving to protect her daughters. "Sophie, Chloe, go back to your room. Stay there until I call you. Understand? Close the door and don't come out." The girls, sensing the urgency in their mother's tone, just nodded. Sophie took her sister's hand and led her back to the room. "I'm calling the police," Liam said, already with his phone in hand. His fingers dialed 911 as he remained calm, an anchor in the storm. "You're going to regret hiding my daughters from me." Travis's voice now echoed through the building's hallway. Some neighbor must have opened the main door. "I have rights. They're my daughters too." The heavy footsteps coming up the stairs sent a wave of panic through Megan. Her legs trembled so much she had to lean against the wall. "He's going to take them," she whispered, terror evident in her voice. "He always said if I tried to run, that he would find me." Liam finished the call with the police and approached her, holding her shoulders firmly. "Look at me, Megan," he said, with a calmness that contrasted with the chaos. "He's not going to take anyone. I won't let him. The police are on their way." A loud bang on the door made Megan jump. Travis had reached their floor and was now pounding on the apartment door with such force that the hinges seemed about to give way. "I know you're in there. Open this door or I'll break it down." Liam moved decisively to the entrance, unlocking the door. Megan grabbed his arm. "What are you doing? He's dangerous." "Trust me," Liam replied. "It's better to confront him out here than to let him break down the door and get inside. Stay with the girls. Lock the door behind me." Megan hesitated for a second, but finally nodded. With a quick movement, Liam opened the door and stepped out into the hallway, closing it behind him. He heard the click of the lock as Megan secured it. Travis stopped for a moment, clearly surprised not to find Megan. His bloodshot eyes and the smell of alcohol indicated he was not sober. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded, taking a step toward Liam. "I'm the person who's going to make sure you don't enter this apartment," Liam replied. His posture relaxed but firm, completely blocking the entrance. Travis laughed, a harsh and unpleasant sound. "So Megan got herself a bodyguard, or is it something more?" His eyes narrowed. "It doesn't matter. Get out of my way. I came to get my daughters." "Your daughters?" Liam kept his voice calm, but there was steel behind his words. "The same ones you abandoned, the same ones you haven't seen in years. The same ones who don't even know who you are." Travis's face contorted with rage. "You don't know anything. She stole them from me, hid them. I'm their father." "Being a father is more than donating DNA," Liam replied, unmoving. "It's being present, it's protecting, it's loving unconditionally. What you did was terrorize their mother until she had to run away to keep them safe." Travis lunged forward, fists clenched, his face red with anger. "Get out of my way. This has nothing to do with you." Liam didn't back down an inch, his presence as solid as a wall. "You will not get near them or her. You lost that right." Travis raised his fist, but before he could strike Liam, the sound of footsteps on the stairs announced the arrival of the police. Two uniformed officers appeared in the hallway, quickly assessing the situation. "What's the problem here, gentlemen?" asked the older of the two, his hand resting on his holster. "This man is preventing me from seeing my daughters," Travis accused. "My ex-wife has hidden them from me for years." "He is intoxicated and threatened to break down the door," Liam explained calmly. "The children's mother is terrified. She's the one who called the police." The second officer approached Travis, noticing the obvious signs of drunkenness. "Sir, I'm going to need you to calm down. We can talk about this at the station." "At the station? I'm the victim here." Travis tried to pull away, but the officer had already grabbed his arm. "Sir, you are disturbing the peace and threatening to break into a residence. Please cooperate." As the police led a furious Travis out of the building, his threats echoing down the stairwell, Liam returned to the apartment. He knocked gently on the door. "Megan, it's me." "He's gone." The police took him. The door opened slowly. Megan stood there, pale, her eyes red. Behind her, the twins peeked from the bedroom doorway, scared but curious. "They took him?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Yes," Liam confirmed. "He won't be back today." She fell into his arms, the tears finally finding release. Her entire body trembled with fear and adrenaline. "He came back," she whispered between sobs, "just like I always feared." Liam hugged her tightly, offering the solidity she needed. "And we handled it. We'll keep handling it." In the days that followed, Liam mobilized all the resources at his disposal. He hired the best family law attorney in the city, a middle-aged man with an impeccable reputation. He met with the police to formally report the threats and the history of abuse that Megan finally had the courage to disclose. He accompanied her to every hearing, every meeting, holding her hand when fear threatened to paralyze her. "I can't do this," she whispered, on the morning of the final hearing, sitting in the kitchen with an untouched cup of coffee. "What if the judge doesn't believe me? What if Travis gets visitation rights?" "He'll take them, Liam." "Look at me," Liam said, holding her cold hands. "We have all the evidence. We have witnesses. We have your testimony. You are strong, Megan, stronger than you think, and you're not alone this time." A week later, the judge granted the restraining order. Travis was legally forbidden from approaching Megan or the twins. Any attempt at contact would result in immediate arrest. "It's over," the lawyer said, handing over the official documents. "He can no longer come near you. If he tries, he goes straight to jail." But even with the paper in hand, even with the new locks on the door, even with the security system Liam had installed, the fear remained. Megan felt it every night as she triple-checked that the doors were locked. She saw it in the scared glances Sophie cast toward the window upon hearing a strange noise. She felt it in the way Chloe clung to her at night, waking from nightmares she couldn't explain. "Mom, is that man going to come back?" Sophie asked one night as Megan tucked them into bed. "No, sweetie. He can't. But what if he doesn't follow the rules?" the ever-perceptive girl insisted. Megan didn't know what to answer. It was Liam, standing in the bedroom doorway, who replied, "Then I'll be here, and I won't let him get near you." The words brought some comfort. The girls fell asleep more peacefully. But the fear, that old companion of Megan's, didn't disappear completely. Fear now had a name, a face, a voice, and even kept at bay by the law and Liam's promises. Its shadow still hung over the small family they had built, like a persistent cloud in a summer sky, reminding them that the storm, though pushed away, still existed on the horizon. The following week, Megan woke up screaming in the middle of the night, startling Liam, who was sleeping in the room next door. "He was here," she murmured, trembling as Liam held her. It felt so real. "It was just a nightmare," he assured her, stroking her hair. "You're safe." "The girls are safe," she nodded, trying to believe him. But they both knew it would take time, a long time, before the ghosts of the past stopped haunting their present. Fear had found a name, and that name would not be easily forgotten. However, for the first time, Megan wasn't facing this fear alone, and that perhaps made all the difference, The days following the incident with Travis were marked by a heavy silence in the small apartment. The girls' laughter, once so frequent, became rare. The lightness that had settled in recent months gave way to a state of constant vigilance. The nights were the worst. Sophie would wake up screaming, convinced she had heard the bad man's voice in the hallway. Chloe, always the quieter one, now barely spoke, clutching the stuffed rabbit Liam had given her as if it were a protective talisman. "Mom, what if he comes back when we're sleeping?" Sophie asked one night, refusing to close her eyes. "He's not coming back, sweetie," Megan replied, stroking her daughter's hair. "The police won't let him." But the words sounded hollow even to her own ears. The restraining order, carefully stored in a kitchen drawer, seemed too fragile to contain the threat Travis represented. After the girls finally fell asleep, usually very late and always together in the same bed, Megan would begin her ritual. She checked the front door lock, then the windows, making sure every latch was in place. She would return to the door, test the handle. She would repeat the whole process 2 or 3 more times before allowing herself to lie down. Sleep, when it came, was light and populated by shadows. She would wake at the slightest noise, the wind in the trees outside, neighbors' footsteps in the hallway, the natural creaks of the old building. The next morning, she would get up more tired than when she went to bed. Liam noticed the change. He rearranged his schedule to be present as much as possible. He spent the nights on the sofa, a comforting presence between them and any danger that might come. He took the girls to school and picked them up. He cooked when Megan was too exhausted. He tried to maintain an appearance of normality, even when the girls' frightened looks and Megan's deep dark circles told a different story. One Wednesday, when he arrived at the apartment after work, he found Megan asleep at the kitchen table. She had fallen asleep on a pile of bills and newspaper classifieds. Next to her, a handwritten list of small towns in the countryside, towns where they could start over, again. It was that night, watching her move mechanically through the kitchen, preparing a dinner she would barely touch, that Liam made his decision. The following Saturday, while the twins were watching a movie in the living room, a rare moment of distraction, he invited Megan to sit on the small balcony. The late afternoon sun bathed the neighborhood in a golden light that contrasted with the shadow in her eyes. "How are you?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "Fine," she replied automatically. The same, "fine," she had been repeating for days, like a meaningless mantra. "Megan," he said softly, "you checked the door lock 4 times last night. You're not sleeping, you're barely eating." She looked away, fixing her gaze on a distant point on the horizon. "It will pass," she murmured. "It always does." "I saw the lists you were making," Liam continued. "The towns, you're thinking of running away again." It wasn't an accusation, just an observation. Still, Megan flinched slightly. "I can't risk it," she replied, her voice barely audible. "If he found me once, he can find me again. And next time—" She left the sentence unfinished, but the fear in her eyes completed the thought. Liam took a deep breath, gathering the courage for what he needed to say. When he spoke, his voice was firm, yet filled with emotion. "You don't have to worry anymore. I want you to come live with me." Megan turned to face him, her eyes wide with surprise. For a moment, she seemed not to understand his words. "What?" "My house," he continued. "It's large, in a gated community, with 24-hour security. Travis would never be able to get close. The girls would have a yard to play in, spacious rooms, excellent schools nearby." Megan shook her head as if trying to clear her thoughts. "Liam, we can't. It's too much. We don't—" "You won't have to be a cleaner anymore," he went on, his voice soft but determined. "I will secure the girls' future. I already consider them my own daughters." His voice cracked slightly at this point. "I love you all so much." The words hung between them, simple but powerful. Megan felt tears form, burning in her tired eyes. She tried to hold them back, an old habit of someone who always had to be strong, but it was useless. They streamed silently down her exhausted face. Liam moved closer, taking her hands in his. There was so much tenderness in his touch, so much security. "Now it's my turn to take care of you," he said simply. Just 7 words. 7 words that shook Megan's world to its foundations. For how long had she carried everything alone? The weight of responsibility, of fear, of daily survival. For how long had she been both the sword and the shield for her daughters? "I'm scared," she confessed, her voice trembling. "Not of Travis, of depending on someone, of trusting. The last time I trusted—" "I know," Liam replied, gently squeezing her hands. "And I don't expect that fear to disappear overnight. We'll take as much time as necessary. But, Megan, look at yourself. Look at the girls. You're exhausted from running, from being afraid." Inside the apartment, they heard a laugh, Sophie reacting to something in the movie. The sound, so rare in recent days, seemed almost foreign. "I'm not asking for an answer now," Liam continued. "Think about it. Talk to the girls, but know that the offer is sincere. It's not just about safety. It's about building something together." Megan studied him in silence, this man who had entered their lives by chance, defending her when no one else would, who played on the floor with her daughters and knew exactly how each of them liked their hot chocolate, who respected her fears and her boundaries, who looked at her as if she were something precious, even when she was exhausted, without makeup, wearing worn-out clothes. "Why?" she finally asked, the question she had held on to since the first day. Why us? Why do you care so much? Liam's eyes, always so clear and honest, met hers. Because you showed me what a real family is. Because my mornings are better when I wake up knowing I'll see you. Because my huge house was never a home until I imagined the three of you in it. He paused, searching for the right words. Because I love you, Megan. I love the strength you don't even realize you have. I love how you protect the girls, how you work without complaining, how you can still smile after everything you've been through. And I love Sophie and Chloe as if they were my own. I can no longer imagine my life without the three of you in it. Megan's tears flowed freely now. Years of restraint, of caution, of mistrust began to crumble before the sincerity of those words. What if it doesn't work out, she whispered, the last bastion of her fear. Then we'll face that together too, he replied simply. Just like we've faced everything else so far. The sun was disappearing over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. In the apartment, the movie had ended, and the girls' voices arguing over which cartoon to watch next reached the balcony. Megan closed her eyes for a moment, allowing herself to imagine a place where the girls could run without fear, where they could sleep through the night without nightmares, where she wouldn't have to check the locks repeatedly, where she could, for the first time in so many years, breathe completely. A home, not just a shelter, not just a hiding place, a real home. Yes, she said finally, opening her eyes to meet Liam's. Yes, let's try. The smile that lit up his face was like the sunrise, gradual, warm, transformative. He gently pulled her into his arms, holding her as if she was something infinitely precious and fragile. And maybe, Megan thought as she allowed herself to rest in that embrace, maybe she was. Maybe they all were, fragile, precious, deserving of protection and love. Maybe now, after so long taking care of everyone, it was finally her turn to be taken care of too. 6 months had passed since the move. Autumn painted the garden in golden and reddish hues, while leaves danced in the gentle wind that blew across the wide grounds of the house. The mansion that once seemed cold and impersonal now overflowed with life. The white walls of the living room displayed colorful paintings, some bought at local art fairs, others creations of the twins themselves. Toys organized in colorful baskets occupied a corner that once held a minimalist sculpture. Photographs in frames of all sizes showed moments captured in recent months. Sophie and Chloe on their first day at the new school, the four of them on a picnic in the park, Megan smiling at the surprise birthday party Liam had organized. The transition hadn't been easy. The first few weeks were marked by insecurities, the girls repeatedly asking if this house was for real or if they would have to run away again. Megan waking up startled in the middle of the night, checking windows and doors out of habit, even knowing about the sophisticated security system. Liam watched it all with infinite patience, never rushing the adjustment process, never making them feel like intruders. "This is your home now," he would repeat gently. "Make it yours in any way you want." And slowly, they did. Megan chose new colors for the walls, new furniture to replace what was too formal. The twins decorated their rooms with glow-in-the-dark stars and shelves full of books and stuffed animals. The garden, once impeccably planned, now included a swing set, a dollhouse, and a small patch where the girls were learning to grow flowers and vegetables. On this Sunday morning, the sun streamed through the large kitchen windows, creating patterns of light on the wooden floor. Megan was preparing lunch, chopping fresh vegetables with confident movements. She wore a simple but pretty dress, her hair loose and falling over her shoulders. The most noticeable change, however, was in her expression. The constant tension that once marked her face had disappeared, replaced by a luminous serenity. Outside, Sophie and Chloe ran through the garden, chasing a colorful ball. Their laughter, loud and carefree, reached the kitchen like the sweetest music. "Be careful with the flowers," Megan called through the open window, but her tone was light, without the anxiety that used to accompany every warning. The girls waved, adjusting their game to avoid the newly planted daisy bed. They were growing, Megan noticed, not just in height but in confidence. Sophie, always the more extroverted, now shone at school. raising her hand to answer questions, making friends with ease. Chloe, naturally more reserved, had found her voice through art, her drawings earning praise from her teacher and a special place on the family's refrigerator. Family. The word still caused a strange and wonderful feeling in Megan. For so long it had been just her and the twins against the world, a small frightened unit, always on alert. Now they were four, a more solid, more secure structure. Lost in these thoughts, she didn't hear the approaching footsteps. She only felt the strong arms that wrapped around her waist, the soft kiss on the nape of her neck. "Zoik, that smells wonderful," Liam murmured against her hair. Megan smiled, leaning back against him for a moment before turning her attention back to the sauce she was preparing. "It's just spaghetti with tomato sauce," she replied. "Nothing special." "Everything you do is special," he said, stealing an olive from the cutting board. She laughed, lightly swatting his hand. It was still surprising to Megan how they had found this ease together, this domestic rhythm, this everyday intimacy. As if they were made for this, to be together in this sunny kitchen, to raise these girls, to build this life. "How was the meeting?" she asked, referring to the work video call he'd had that morning. "Productive," Liam answered, getting plates to help set the table. "The project in Singapore is moving faster than expected. Will you need to travel?" The question came out naturally, without the panic that would have once accompanied it. "Maybe for a week next month, but you all could come with me. The girls would love to see the botanical gardens there." Megan smiled. This was how it was now, shared plans, decisions made together, a future unfolding before them like an illuminated path. An excited shout from the garden caught both their attention. The twins were running towards the house, holding something in their hands. "Look what we made!" exclaimed Sophie, bursting into the kitchen like a small hurricane of energy, with Chloe right behind her. "Easy, girls," Megan warned gently. "What do you have there?" "A drawing of our family," Chloe answered, proudly holding up a large sheet of paper. Liam knelt to get a better look, receiving the drawing with the seriousness the twins' creations always deserved. 4 stick figures smiled under a bright yellow sun, 2 small ones between 2 larger ones, all holding hands. At the top, in colorful, uneven letters, it was written, "Mommy, Liam, Sophie, and Chloe, our family." "It's beautiful," he praised, his voice slightly choked up. "Really, really beautiful." "We're putting it on the fridge," Sophie decided, already running to get the magnets. "Next to the other one we made last week," added Chloe. "Soon we won't have any more space," Megan joked, looking at the refrigerator already covered in drawings, shopping lists, notes, and photographs, the everyday artifacts of a shared life. "Then we'll buy a bigger fridge," Liam replied, winking at the girls, who laughed at the idea. With the drawing properly displayed, the twins went back out to the garden, still with energy to burn before lunch. Liam and Megan stood in the kitchen, watching them through the window. For a moment, neither of them spoke, just absorbing the scene. Their daughters playing carefree in the garden, safe, happy, blooming like the plants they cultivated together. "Sometimes I still can't believe it," Megan said softly. "That we got here, that everything worked out." Liam took her hand, their fingers intertwining naturally. "You deserve this," he replied. "You all deserve it. This safety, this happiness." "You too," she said, turning to face him. "You deserve a family that makes that huge house finally feel like a home." He smiled, lightly touching her face. It still surprised him how well she understood him, how she saw not just the successful man the world knew, but the boy who had grown up lonely, the son of a mother who had fought alone, the man who longed for true connection. "Did you know it's been exactly 6 months today?" he asked. "Since you all moved in." "Are you counting?" she teased with a smile. "Every day," he confessed. "Every moment." His eyes, so honest and clear, met hers. There was a seriousness in him now, a depth that made Megan hold her breath. "These have been the best 6 months of my life," Liam continued. "And I want many more, decades more, if you want—" His voice took on a softer, almost reverent tone. "This is forever now." The words hung between them, not a question, Not exactly a request, but an offer, an entire future condensed into a simple phrase. Megan looked out the window once more, at her daughters playing under the autumn sun, at the house that was now truly theirs, at the life they had built together, brick by brick, day by day, at this man who had found them when they needed it most and had never stopped being there. "It always was," she replied, smiling, the last reservations in her heart finally dissolving completely. When Liam pulled her closer, sealing the promise with a kiss, Megan finally felt at home, not just in this structure of walls and roofs, but in this moment, in this love, in this family they had formed against all odds. Outside, the girls' laughter continued. The sun shone, and the future stretched out before them. No longer scary and uncertain, but bright and full of possibility.